Hey everyone, so welcome back to Project Pro YouTube channel, and in today's video we will be talking about SQL for data engineering. So this is something which is really important to talk about because SQL is kind of bread and butter for all the data professionals. And when I talk about the data professionals, including data engineers, data analysts, business analysts, data scientists, whosoever it is, in your interviews, SQL is going to play a vital role. It will have somewhere around 35 to 40% of weightage, and even in the day-to-day activities of data analytics, SQL plays a very important role whenever it comes to find the meaningful insights from the data, to query it, to process it. SQL will be there in your day-to-day activities. So most of the time, the newcomers who are into the data related job profiles, they struggle a lot to focus on the important topics of SQL. So this is why I am creating this video, so that based on my interview experiences and based on my data engineering experience, what will be important for the SQL in your interviews and even day-to-day activities. So I've listed down these topics. As you can see, first thing which you need to focus on, the important commands, right? This is obviously the basic step. Let's say we have the programming, anyone, Python, Java, Scala, C, C++. So first we try to learn the syntaxes, right? How to, let's say, declare a variable, how to write the if condition, and how to create the for loop functions. So every programming language has its own syntax, and in the same way SQL also have different commands to manipulate the data, right, in the relational databases. So we have important categories like DDL, DML, DCL. So any command related to data definition, for example, create table, alter table, comes under the DDL, data definition language. Then DML, data manipulation, any command which will somehow impact the data inside a table, inside a database, like the insert, update, delete, they will come under the DML. Then we have the DCL, data control language. So those commands which are related to grant the permission and revoke the permissions. So we have commands like grant and revoke, which comes under the DCL part. Then we have the DQL, data query language. So we have the select command in SQL, where we just select something, right, and we write the entire logic and we get the final outcome. So this is the basic fundamental part to start with SQL. Then second thing, you need to focus on the integrity constraint part. So we all know when we talk about the relational databases, they are consistent, and how we can achieve the consistency if the data which we are trying to insert, it is following a proper rule. So when we apply these kind of rules, checks, right, while creating the table, or even after creating the table, whenever we realize that we need to make our data consistent by following some rules, so there these integrity constraints will come into picture. So if I would like to name few integrity constraints, so like making a particular column as a not null is a integrity constraint. Similarly, declaring a particular column as a key column, right, like primary key, that is also a constraint. To apply a default kind of values on a particular column, that is also an integrity constraint. Let's say for a particular column we want to apply some condition, means if we are trying to insert a value, if that value is following a condition, then that record should get inserted, else it should get started. So we can apply a integrity constraint like check. Okay, so these will be the integrity constraints. So you need to deep dive into it, you need to understand it, what's the important of it and how they are implemented. Next, the most important part and the actual core of the data analytics, because when we talk about the data analysis, right, you are not doing it with just only one data set. There will be multiple data sets together, and in the relational database management systems, all these data sets somehow will be connected with each other, because in RDBMS we call a table as a relation, and there will be some key columns among these tables which will be common, and those kind of columns will actually be used to join two data sets together. And that is the part where primary key concept, foreign key concept, composite key concept actually comes into the picture. So you should have a good understanding of it. Now coming to the data filtration part, right? How we can apply the filter related logics while querying any data set. So for that one, we should know the implementation of where clause, which is related to the data filtration during the query part. So here, mostly what we need to know, how to use the logical operators in the where clause, how to apply the conditional operators, how to use other operators like this, like is also an operator there, between, is null, is not null, right? So this is something we need to know in the where clause. Next and super most important, which is again related to more than one data set, that is the join part, right? So if we have more than one data set and based on some logic, we want to join them together, obviously we need some key columns, and also in the joins we have different type of joins as well, which will work for different conditions. So we have inner join, left join, right join, full outer join, conditional operation or conditional based joins. So we should deep dive into it and we should have a really good idea about it. Next is the if else kind of statement in the SQL. So in the programming language, we know we have a straightforward way for it, right? But when we talk about the SQL, there is no straightforward way actually, right? We have a similar sort of syntax, and that is case when statement. So while querying any data set on a particular column, if we want to apply this kind of if else check, we can use case when statements. Now coming to the grouping part, right? So data analytics is mostly about the aggregations, like taking the sum of a column, finding the minimum, maximum, average, and standard deviations, all these kind of aggregations, right? So when we talk about the crisp and short meaningful insight, right, we might be using the grouping logics, right? Let's say if I want to figure out for each country how much sales made by Amazon e-commerce platform, so we will be taking the country as a grouping column and we will try to find the sum of the sales, average, min, max, all these things. So that is the part where group by concept will come into picture, and that is very much important. And we all need to know like how to apply the simple aggregations, how to use the group concat, also applying the aggregation functions over the case when statement, means the use of case when along with the group by statement. So you need to practice the queries around this concept as well. Next is the Regexp. So whenever in our data set there are columns which are kind of string and we want to just apply substring kind of or pattern matching kind of implementations or rules, then we need to know how to use this Regexp functions to manipulate data in such manner. Next, date functions are very much important because again data analytics again is very much relying on the data, right? When you want to figure out the meaningful information, so date wise computation you might be doing, right, very frequently. So you need to know, right, at least few common date functions like how to extract a month from a given date, then how to extract let's say particular weekday from a date, similarly year from a date, and these kind of date functions like taking a subtraction of two dates. So all these kind of basic date functions you should definitely know. Next, and very much important, because when we talk about the raw data, right, we cannot always expect it to be perfect. Perfect means everything is well populated and it do not contain any garbage data, and that is not true. That is the reality in the data analytics. So in our source data, most of the time we will get there are columns which are containing null values. So during the data manipulation, we would like to avoid, or we would like to tackle those null values in a different way. So you should know what all things we can use to deal with null values while querying the data from a table. Now, substring related functions, as I said, there might be few columns where we have some string kind of data type, and we want to apply like a substring, whether this particular substring exists in the main string or main column, or we want to slice something, right, any kind of operation. So for this thing we need to know the substring part. Next is the Coalesce function, right? Very much important thing. Let's say whenever in your query you are dependent on more than one column to populate a not null type of value. So that is the thing where Coalesce function is something which will play an important role, and frequently it is also being used. Next, and again very much important, the lookup kind of queries. Lookup kind of queries. So again, sort of, let's say you want to write a for loop in the programming language where every time in every iteration you are using a variable which is iterating over a list or a dictionary or tuple or an array, something like that. And similar to that line, in our SQL, if we want to check whether this particular value exists in some other data set or not, so there we need to use some lookup kind of operators, and we might need to write the subqueries as well. So for that we can have in, not in, any, all, exist, not exist kind of operations. Next is the common table expression, or it is also known as the with clause, right? So that is something which is really popular, and this actually comes under the advanced part of SQL, right? So in the advanced part of SQL, this is the very important, like iterative common table expression and recursive common table expression. Next is union, all, intersection related operations. So when we have more than one data set, we want to concatenate them together, merge them together, there we can use union, all, intersection kind of operation. Next, and very much important from the interview perspective and even from the data analytics perspective, that is window functions, right? They are very popular when it comes to the SQL interviews and even day-to-day activities, solving complex problems. Window functions are very much helpful. So you need to know all these important concepts. You need to know how to create the window functions. What are the popular window functions? Few examples like row number, rank, dense rank, and these aggregation functions, lag, lead, first value, last value, nth value, and then the frame clause in the window functions, which is row between, range between, right? So this is something which is super duper important. So this is the thing where you actually need to understand this part, how it is implemented, right? So last but not the least, which is pivot tables. So for an example, when you are given a data set and you need to print some output, or you need to derive few outputs in the inverted manner, right? So that is the thing where pivot table related concepts will come into the picture, and we should have a really good idea about it. So these were these few really important topics when it comes to data engineering and especially the SQL. So not just only data engineering, I must say data science, data analytics, whatever it is, SQL is everywhere. It is very powerful. So whatever topics I have listed down, make sure you go through with all of them, try to practice queries around all these topics, and let me know in the comment section as well, which topic do you find easy to practice and which topic do you find hard to practice. And also after practicing the SQL, please try to implement this thing as well, and you would love to practice, you would love to create some realistic projects around the big data as well, where you will see the actual use cases of the SQL. So make sure to check out the Project Pro platform as well. There you will find more than 250 plus solved end-to-end big data projects. So I will see you guys in the next video with another amazing topic. Till then, bye bye.